tākiri ko te ata, kōrihi ko te manu, ka ao, ka awatea, tihei maurio. Ko tamale sāna hau, te kai hautu o te ahu o te reo ki te tauhi. Ahu tia te whakaaro, ahu tia te kōrero, mai te kore, ki te pō, ki te ao mārama. You've had a real unique pathway in education, going from Kohanga Reo to the first bilingual unit in Nelson to mainstream education, then off to church college. What was that like for you?
It was very unique. I think it's all fun, different experiences. You know, you grow up in te ao Māori, learning with mum, obviously. I remember going to girls' college with her to do her reo courses, and then getting chucked into, actually before Central we went to Birchwood, which was, you know, completely Pākehā, and then jumping back into bilingual, even that was a shock. So being surrounded by, I think our whānau was the only whānau in the whole school that was Māori, then going to a completely, you know, bilingual, all the cousins, everyone's Māori. Real cool getting back into that really hearty culture type thing, and then back out to, I think we just did a big flip-flop the whole way through, and then back to Birchwood, where again we were some of the, you know, only Māoris connected to culture. So we became the leaders of kapahaka. Can't sing, can't do, you know, but we were the only ones that had ever done it before. And then back to actually to church college, and that was, you know, they say it's a church school, but really it's sports focused. If you were in the sports teams, man, you could walk out of a classroom and have a really good day. But lots of fun experiences in all the different settings. Yeah, real cool.
And then you did full circle. So you went from, you know, Kohanga Reo as a child to working in a Kohanga Reo.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like?
I think you probably know this too. When you come through Kohanga Reo and your whānau stays in Kohanga Reo, it's quite natural to move back into teaching at Kohanga Reo. And then even because you have your tamariki, and that's the whole kaupapa of the Kohanga Reo, is to, you know, sit alongside your tamariki and do that whole experience of learning and reconnecting to your whakapapa. It was quite natural. Hoha at the same time, because you're having fights with your cousins and then you're taking their kids home. But yeah, I think any time you're with your whānau, good or bad, it's a fun experience and just really grounding.
You talked about those relationships. It's like you never leave, eh?
Never.
Like, it's like you might have left, but then you're still there as a mātua, still there. And then probably as a kaimahi, there's a different expectation. Then you went into the ministry from Kohanga Reo, you know, like, and we know that relationship that the Kohanga Reo has with the ministry. So what was that like?
It was hard for me. So I know that there's an expectation, you know, when we go to Kohanga Reo, we're taught, you know, we don't interact with the ministry. We go through National Trust. And when I went in there, I was like, oh no, there's, you know, like some things that your Kohanga whānau need to know that they just don't know. And so it was kind of a shock for me to move in thinking I'm going to go in and I'm going to help the whānau. I'm going to give them all these amazing things that they're missing out on. And then realising that actually I'm going in there to, you know, tohu people and to, you know, take things away from them or to tell them they're doing things wrong, which is really, I don't know what you call it, contradicting to, you know, our tikanga Māori. We're there to support, we're manaaki, and if things need to be fixed, we fix it. So on one side, when I'm working with my Kohanga Reo whānau, I'm like, hey, we'll fix that up. We need to fix it before anything happens. And then on the other side, I've got to go into these other centres and be like, no, big cross. So I found it really hard to sit in a space where I'm no longer really supporting people and just in a ticking box place and still trying to find my feet with our Kohanga Reo whānau.
Because what was the role?
I was a senior education advisor, but that was just pretty much taking complaints, checking people are keeping regulations and sticking to criteria and things like that.
All the stuff that in Kohanga Reo.
A lot of people don't actually know. Like, you go into places and they're like, oh, we didn't even know that. But Kohanga especially, I think going through, we're taught not to engage, and that those rules don't apply to us, and we do have separate rules, but we still have rules that we don't know. So going in, it was a big eye opener on the rules that we do actually have that we're unaware of, and trying to figure out how I can support without coming in, supporting them without being the ministry. Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, when you know the kaupapa so well, and there's that expectation, hey, you've been part of our kaupapa, how are you going to help us?
Yeah.
What was it like in the ministry, like as a Māori, what was it like in the ministry? Because, this office has a very small amount of Māori in the office. So what was that like?
It was different going in, and I like to think I changed the vibe in there a little bit. But, like some people, I had this fellow that I sat next to, and they actually sat me by him because a lot of them couldn't handle him. So he's funny. Like, I think he's more of our type of people. So I was actually really happy to be sitting next to him because we kind of just had that whole banter. I think if I had sat somewhere else, it would have been mind numbing. They kind of never left their desks, worked. Whereas I'm like, okay, we need to take our breaks. Let's go have that hikoi, that all that hoe water stuff. Kind of, they were on their deadlines, and I was like, if we don't have the capacity for it, we just don't. And I was easy enough to walk away. Some nights were different, when the workload was heavy. But that, and also having that people looking at me going, oh, what is she doing? Oh, that's not what we do. And I'm getting told off because I'm having a kai somewhere that I'm not supposed to, and I'm just going, oh, yeah, kei te pai. Having my, oh, well, I think just being, doing my thing differently and being okay with doing it differently, for me was hard, but not hard because I still kind of have Roy. And then you had Myron come in, and it became a lot easier to do that because they did it as well. Yeah.
What was it like being a Māori in that space? Were there expectations on you? Because especially because you're from iwi, from here. Were there any expectations of you?
I think really just about that teaching reo, which is not my job in the ministry to teach reo, but have I got this pronunciation right? Which you don't mind doing, but go somewhere else and do it. You know what I mean? Like that expectation of, I've got the karakia, I'm going to teach you a karakia, I'm going to teach you a waiata. All things we don't mind doing, but if it's in my job description, then make it in my job description and pay me for it. Yeah. Oh, you know what I mean? Like that expectation of, we see that a Pākehā in that position didn't have the same expectations of running the karakia or running, I had to do presentations on the Kohanga Reo kaupapa for learning support and other things, which is cool because we need them to understand what they're coming into when they go to Kohanga, but that wasn't actually what I was there for. Yeah.
And that's some of those pressures that are put on any Māori, but even in your case it was, because you're from here, they'll be like, oh yeah, we're going to ask Jodi, oh, what's this tikanga, all of those, which you don't get remunerated for. There's no give back a lot of the time. And
it's so natural. We've done it our whole lives, because especially growing up in Kohanga, you're like, there's no 9 to 5, there's iwi space, it's always you 24/7. So you're just doing it, and then you don't realise until somebody says something that actually it's not your job to do it. You don't have to do it. But for the betterment, we just do.
Yeah. Thinking about now, you've left the ministry and now you're back in the sector.
Yeah.
What's that like? So knowing what happens in that ministry space and now being like, what are the things that you're like, oh, I can really help in this part?
I think just leaving the ministry, I had a good time there, but it was, not for me. And so what can I help with? So leading Māori, because my job is the kaiarahi Māori, so teaching correct tikanga or if things are being done wrong, and also the expectation that teachers have to meet like a certain number of Māori things that you have to do. Whereas I'm like, if you're not going to do it genuinely, just don't do it. So they'll ask me and I'll be like, if you're not going to do it genuinely, don't do it, but go and find that experience where it becomes genuine. So I think supporting the curriculum in a genuine way, because I just, no matter what a curriculum or legislation or mandates, whatever tells you to do, it's a bit rip-offy when you take Māori things and go, I'm going to relate this to an atua because it ticks that box for the NALPs or something. And I'm going, nah, go and figure it out properly. And then when you've done that, then you can tick that box. But the box doesn't come first.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, that's mean. And just thinking about, because like kindergarten, ECE actually as a sector have really come into Te Ahu o Te Reo Māori. Like some of our biggest numbers come from the ECE sector. Are you seeing a shift in the ECE centre, particularly now in your mahi in the Kindergarten Association? Are you seeing a shift?
I think in terms of education, ECE's been great for a long time, but definitely a bigger shift to localize everything. So being more proactive on things related to te tauihu rather than just sharing all the stories of kupe and Māui. We're now talking about matua hautere, te tairua kireopa, things that are local and not just what you can find on Google anymore. Yeah.
That's mean, because that was the hope, was that isa was te reo Māori, and you got to get the pronunciation, you got to get unpack tikanga for them, but also it was that localized curriculum. What are some of the resources or the things that you're seeing out there that they're creating that you think, oh man, this could be something that we could use even within our iwi?
I don't think there's a lot that I'm seeing about creation, but I think more about correcting. So I talked to you about this earlier, about one of our centres really focusing on their mita and getting that right. So aligning with Ngāti Tama. And, sometimes, like we said, sometimes our Ngāti Tama friends don't use, they still say their H's and things like that, which isn't, I guess it's whakatū, and we all kind of blend our languages together, but, that idea of reflecting back and going, actually, that iwi does it this way and that iwi does it that way. So that being really genuine in who they approach and how they approach, but that's happening everywhere. So they're recognising that, like with the Delaware, the sinking of the Delaware, the two different kōrero, and they're addressing both of the kōrero and saying, this is one kōrero, this is the other kōrero. So opening up those barriers that have been between iwi, iwi kōrero and that, and bringing it into their whānau. I think that for me is one of the big highlights.
Now, I used to teach your kids, and I love your babies. What are they up to now? Like, what are your tamariki up to now? So
my kids, they're a jump around schooling, education kids too. So we're big on karakia, hahi, all of that. So it's important for us to karakia when we're putting our kids in places. So they've jumped from, with you at Central School. That wasn't even an option to start with, but that's where they ended up, and then moved to Victory. And now Te Ariki, he's just moved into Kurikaupapa. So he's at Kurikaupapa. My girls are at Victory School in the Māori unit, and my other babies are in Kohanga Reo.
Do you see a difference in the Kohanga Reo? Like, you work at Kindergarten Association, your babies are at Kohanga Reo. Do you see any inequities in the two programs?
Yeah. So I think the biggest inequity is to do with the support. So with our Kohanga Reo whānau, it's a lot of it is, if we approach National Trust, it's told, go back to your whānau, it's a whānau decision. Go back to your whānau, it's a whānau decision. But our whānau don't know the rules, our whānau don't know the regulations, and they don't know what they have to do. So that if anything does come down on them, like we've filled out a form wrong and we lose 30 grand because we just didn't know, it gets shoved back on our whānau. Whereas in kindergarten, they've got that support where someone's going, hold on, something's happening, you need to fix it. And they go, you know, they've got that support to go, this is what's the problem, this is how you fix it. And it's all straightened out. There's no missing out on anything. If there's a question, there's someone who's actually going to answer it without telling them it's your whānau's choice.
And do you see that as being one of the sort of barriers for Kohanga Reo to fly and take off again? Because, you know, the kaupapa, currently there's only 800 Kohanga Reo and there used to be 1,400 when it started. You know, is that one of the barriers to growing Kohanga Reo?
Yeah. I think it's the biggest barrier to growing Kohanga Reo, because whānau can only do so much. But if you're asking for support and it keeps getting thrown back to you to just make a decision, there's no actual support. You know, like you're just saying, oh, make the decision, it's whānau whakahaere. And then when you try to enact that, then it comes back and goes, oh, actually, you can't do that. Like, tell us before we can't do that we can't do it.
What are some of the things, in terms of whānau whakahaere, do you think can support that whānau whakahaere?
Training in those, you know, because they've all got to hold those committee positions. So what's the chairperson supposed to do? What's their role? What is the role of a treasurer? What's the role of a secretary? And then teach them the criteria that they have to keep. All of those things, criteria, regulations, will give a guideline of what's okay before you've done it and you've made a mistake and you lose whatever, you know, whatever it is. I'll use that example. We, our Kohanga Reo, were filling in enrolment forms wrong, and then it came back to us, we lost 30 grand because we just didn't know any better. Yeah. So we lost it, we've had to fix it, which is cool, we've fixed it now, but it shouldn't have been a problem. Yeah.
With your kindergarten hat on, what do you see sort of for the future of kindergarten?
I see genuine relationships between iwi, not necessarily iwi, but localized curriculum, general knowledge and understanding of how Te Tauihu works for Māori tamariki, and how to best support our whānau Māori in their learning pathways, wherever that takes them.
Yeah, because there's a lot of our tamariki aren't coming to Kohanga Reo, hey, and they're in kindergartens, they're in ECE. And that's the wish for all of our tamariki, is that they are in some way immersed in their culture, whether it's in Kohanga Reo or not. We want them all in Kohanga Reo, obviously, but you know, that's the choices that our whānau have, and so what do you think will attract our whānau Māori back to, well, not even our whānau Māori, any whānau to the kaupapa of the Kohanga Reo?
I think it's setting proper boundaries, you know, like you know, not one rule for one whānau, one rule for the other whānau. We know what the guidelines are, we know what our expectations are, and actually rather than, you know, continually aki them in the things that they're doing wrong and we'll just ignore it. Like our tupuna never did that. If something was wrong, we addressed it, and it was brought up, not we'll just leave it for the sake of the tamaiti. You know what I mean? Does it, you know, like you know, you're supposed to be at whānau hui supporting these kaupapa and you haven't come to one, but we're just, you know, even though you committed, kei te pai, it's not a real commitment. Yeah, because that commitment is huge, eh? Oh, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that people don't realise. Te ao Māori, when you're on the kaupapa, you're on the kaupapa, and you've got to be wholeheartedly in it. Yeah. What are the aspirations you have for your babies? For my tamariki, I think I feel like I'm seeing my aspirations come true with my kids already. Just that mana whakahaere, like especially with Te Ariki, he chose to go to kaupapa. That wasn't, you know, he brought it up with us, and then we gave him that, you know, okay, so these are the decisions you're making, these are going to be the consequences, you need to make the right decisions for yourself. So I think just for them to be able to, you know, get in their feels and follow whatever pathway they need to follow to be happy, without disregarding where they come from. Yeah, that's a cool one.
giving some autonomy and those decision making at an early age. Do you think your journey in education has had an influence on the way that you parent your tamariki?
Yeah, I do. I think because it's all of that mix of there's nothing wrong with bilingual education if it best supports your tamaiti. Te ao Māori, love it. Whare karakia, love it. But a mix of all of that, that all of those things are important to me, and how do we use them equally to to thrive, I guess, because some people don't find value in some things, and kei te pai. Find your value and just stick to what that is.
Last big question. So if you were if a Pākehā whānau really wanted to get involved in the Kohanga Reo, wanted their tamariki to come, what would be some of the key things that they would need to know to really properly engage in Kohanga Reo?
I'd say one, you are management team. You're not management yourself, you're management team. You have to listen to everybody. Everybody gets a say, and sometimes you don't get your way. You got to work hard. The kaimahi would teach, but you're going to clean the yards, and you're going to set policies, and you're going to do all of those end of year cleanings, figure out what wages look like. So really, you're going to run the Kohanga Reo, and you're going to pay while you're doing it.
Because I think there's probably a huge amount of people out there that will want to send their tamariki to Kohanga Reo in coming years, because I see it's going to be there's going to be a real want as society changes, and we've seen those changes now. So I think those are some really good tips. Now, just to finish us off, I've got some quick fire questions.
Can I just add one thing to what you said though? Another thing though is that the Kohanga Reo does provide packages if you're a stay-at-home parent. So it suits good if you're wanting to take that journey with your whānau, then there's all the opportunity for you to learn te reo Māori and stay within the kaupapa alongside your tamariki and take those benefits from it as well. So it's not all, work.
Yeah, that's a really good one, those opportunities to learn alongside your tamariki, te ara tuatahi, te ara tuarua, whakapakari now being a degree program, that's a pathway for whānau that do want to stay at home with their tamariki. That's a really good point. Okay, they're not hard. Okay. Don't overthink them, so boil up hangi.
Boil up.
Seafood.
No.
Hey, let me see that one.
I don't care, no.
Okay, so rewana fried bread.
Ooh, fried bread.
Golden syrup or jam?
Golden syrup.
Ooh, okay. Butter or margarine?
Butter.
Milk or cream?
Cream. Oh, what do you have in it?
Porridge.
Cream.
Kia ora. Brown sugar or golden syrup in your porridge?
Brown sugar.
And then the last one, I feel like this one's not going to work because you don't like kaimoana.
No, that's not going to work.
Yeah, because I was going to go, I'll try this one. TT, KFC.
Yeah, KFC.
Ka pai, tēnā koe, tēnā tātou i tō tāua kōrero i tēnei ata. E mihi ana ki a koe me ngā whakaaro, ko whakawhāriki hea i mua i te aroaro. E mihi ana ki a koe o tira ki ērā tātai ou, ko tamariki i roto i te Kohanga Reo, ko tō māma anō hoki. Me tō hono atu ki ngā wāhi katoa o te rangapū mātauranga nei, i roto i te tāhuhu, roto i ngā whare kōhunga me te Kohanga Reo. Nā reira, tēnā koe, ka whakairihia te tapu o ngā kōrero ki te pātu o te whare, kia puta ki te whaiao, ki te ao mārama, tihei, mauri ora.